Good afternoon, everybody. I am Paula Ludwig with the Atlantic Institute. The Atlantic Institute is a nonprofit organization who promotes positive dialogue between different cultures, religions, meeting your next door neighbor, and all of that. Our vision is of a peaceful world, and we feel that by learning about other cultures, we're a step in that direction. As you can probably see, a lot of you have put where you're from in our chat, and we do event audits every year, and I show my bosses that I am reaching the world with these events, and that we can continue doing them for many, many more years. So if you can and would, just put your where you're from. It can just be city, state, zip, country. That's awesome. It just shows them that we are reaching far and wide. I am going to show you a 2-minute video about the Atlantic Institute, but first I do want to talk about a raffle we have going on right now. We are raffling off a piece of artwork from an artist and some coffee. And if you want more information on that, you can either email me or I will send it out in a group chat or a group email. And it is only $10 per raffle to win. It's at least a $10 bag of coffee, and then the artwork is amazing. It's, I believe, digital artwork. It has Lego figures in it and Godzilla and all sorts of fun things that would make it awesome and wonderful Christmas gift for anybody who's into that kind of stuff. So like I said, if you want more information, let me know. But now I am going to play our video, and I'm going to share my screen. Hang on. I always do this wrong. Why is it not letting me? There we go. And share.
The Atlantic Institute is a nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting harmonious coexistence between peoples of various cultures, faiths, and backgrounds. We seek this goal through peaceful dialogue, education initiatives, and community organization. Our dialogue events bring together experts, community and faith leaders, and knowledge seekers to address social issues that affect us all. We feel dialogue is the most important element in peaceful coexistence, so we try and maintain several panel discussions, TED Talk events, and book clubs throughout the year. These events touch on social issues, race relations, and cultural understanding, and are a mainstay of our programming. The Atlantic Institute's education events are extremely important to our mission of understanding. We want to promote socially forward critical thinking to students of all ages. To that end, we have developed programs that seek to grow the creative spirit of students and help them think about their communities and the world around them. Our Future Leaders of Dialogue event brings together nominated elite students to learn from each other as well as political and business leaders. Our art and essay contest gives students a theme about important societal issues and allows them to create wonderful works of art and writing while steering their minds towards improving their world. We are always seeking ways to educate youths and adults in order to make a peaceful world for all of us. Our community events are designed to transform neighbors into friends and groups of people into a community. By associating with other nonprofits or by our own initiative, we are always trying to discover new avenues to improve our neighborhoods, places of worship, and community centers. We host cooking demonstrations of food from other cultures, work with various nonprofits to help elevate the work of others, and try to find a way to make the lives of those who are disenfranchised or marginalized better. Building a more peaceful world starts in our backyards, so we are dedicated to improving our communities and associations. The Atlantic Institute is always seeking like-minded volunteers and collaborators. If you would like to learn more, find volunteer opportunities, or just want to chat with our staff, please visit our website at www.atlanticinstitutesc.org or follow us on Facebook. We will never run out of fun, educational, peaceful events, so come join us to help make this world a better place full of understanding and unity.
All right. Thank you. So now I am going to turn this over to Declan. First, the raffle I was mentioning It is in support of our what we call our creativity contest now. It used to be our art and essay contest, but we have added short films to this contest this year. And so we're excited to see what these young people can do. It's middle school and high school age students. So, but I am now going to turn this over to Declan. I want to thank him very much for being our instructor this month for this class. And he is going to lead us through jewelry making. I'm excited.
No. Hello. So my name is Declan Meara and I am based in Cork in Ireland. I'm a teacher and an artist, so I do a lot of workshops in all different types of arts and crafts, and I then teach art teachers as well online. So today I'm going to show you how to make some jewelry. So I'll be showing you how to make earrings, how to make necklaces, also how to make little bracelets, and different types of those as well. So depending on, you can follow along, if you have some of the equipment at home, just use maybe whatever you have to hand. Also, you can maybe take some notes about the different products that I'm using, and then from that you can, make some jewelry after this demonstration. So thank you for attending as well. All of you are muted, but you can unmute yourself at any stage if you have any questions, or if you want to as well, pop it in the chats if you're more comfortable doing that. It's sometimes a little bit easier if you whichever one you find most comfortable. So I have 2 cameras set up. So this one here where you see me, and then there's another camera here where I will flip then through both of the cameras so you can see then the different types of jewelry. So first off, what we're going to do is we're going to make a very simple pair of earrings. So the tools and stuff that you need is like a selection of beads, then also the jewelry findings. I'll explain all of those to you. Some more beads up here. Then this is an example of just a necklace that I made. This is another example here, and I'll show you all of those kind of closer up as well to the camera. Then we also have a type of earring here with a feather. There's also these ones, the kind of pearl earrings. This is a piece that was made of Fimo. It's a little brooch, so I'll explain all of those later as well. I'll also show you then towards the end of the demonstration how we make felted jewelry. So if we want to make our own beads, and also out of clay as well. So first off, we're going to start with our earring. So I'm just going to make sure that all are muted, because just in case we have some embarrassing background noise. So we'll just mute that there. And like I said, feel free to ask some questions. Hopefully I'll cover everything in the hour that we have together. So first off, we're going to make a pair of earrings. So I'm going to show you a few different formats of those earrings, and just here. So the kind of tools we'll need for the earrings, we'll need our long nose pliers, and we will need our snips. So they're 2 of the same type of snips. So anything to cut our head pins. So, and I'll show you those as well. So these are our head pins. So the head pin has a little top on it here. So excuse my maybe dirty nails because I was painting today. So with that, it will be that. So the head pin has a small flat part on the top, and I'll show you in a minute. And it has a long kind of piece of wire here. So first off, we have that, and we'll have of course, our earring hooks. So we have our earring hooks just here. So we'll need 2 of those to make a pair, unless we're going for an 80s look where you might just have 1 earring hanging. And we will need our 2 head pins. So for this one, we're using our head pins. Some of you as well, if you didn't have the head pins, you could use what's called an eye pin. And I will be showing you after this section, I'll be showing you how to make one with the eye pin. So the eye pin has just a little round kind of eye here like that. So I'll show you those as well in a second. So we have our long nose pliers and our little snips. And I'm just going to make something quite basic just with the pearls. So these are just a selection of pearls. Again, you all have your own taste level. Don't judge my tastes. My taste may not be your taste. So we will get our pearls. So I'll use a pearl and I'll use a more shiny bead as well, just so we can all see it on camera as well. So I have my beads in front of me here. So we're going to, first off, you need to, with the head pin, if the dimension of the hole is too big, the head pin would go through it. So you can see here, it goes through it, it goes right through it. So we use, so there's our, just focus my camera. So we use a little decorative stopper at the end of this. So it's really purely for decoration and sometimes, and then also it can be to stop the bead from falling through. So just here, I'll just grab this here. So just here. So it's a small little decorative, just like that. It's a little decorative end really. And you would have seen them on these, on the necklace. Here it acts as a decorative kind of stopper on those. But in this case, because the dimension of the hole is too big, we put this on first onto our head pin here, so it stops anything from falling through. So we have our bead then that we can put there, and then that'll stop the bead from falling through the head pin. So we have it just here. I'll just focus that. Camera's playing up there now. So then that's that. It acts as both decoration, and here it acts functioning to stop the bead from actually falling off. So then just put on your selection of beads. You can decide on the format, as I said. You whatever your taste level is, you decide. So we put on our bead here. Let's over through that. Sometimes you get a bead and the hole is not pierced all the way through. So there's our third bead. So we put on another bead just for decoration. So when I'm happy with the amount of beads that I have on it, what we do then is we will just snip then this. So we just need to snip off the top of this because we don't want them too long for this. So I'll just snip this. So when I cut this, be mindful that it will snap and it may fly. So just kind of cover it a little bit so it doesn't take your eye out, really is the main thing. So when we have this here, so this is our bead here. So all I need to do now is use my long nose pliers, and I'm creating a loop on the top of this, just a very loose loop first. So you'll see here. So just inside. So it's not closed off. So in order to put our earring hook in here. So our earring hook will hook into that, and then we just need to flatten that in place. So this part can get a little bit tricky when you're trying to do it on camera. So just like that. So this is our earring made then. So I'll switch cameras just so you can see how it hangs. And just 1 second. So that is the earring there. So very simple. It's very, very straightforward. And then of course, if you're not going 80s style, you will need to make them into a pair. So that is our first format with the earring. So I'll show you now a second format. So the second format, if we wanted to have, I just unwind these. So if you wanted to have a bead that's hanging, so it hangs, so it drops twice. I'll show you here. So you have it dropping once, so from what we made earlier, and then you wanted to dangle even further. So you have like a 2-dropped earring. So I'm going to show you that now. That's using our eye pin that I showed you at the start. So I'll just switch cameras again. Just here. So with your eye pin, again, it has a little loop made and all. It's quite neatly done. So I'll be showing you these also when we're making a necklace. So they function for that as well. So you have your eye pin. So again, if you are, I should have said actually, if you're making a pair of earrings, it's probably a good idea at the start to line them up together and cut them to the length that you want them at the start. So I'll cut these here so that, and remember those little bits fly. You will see underneath here as well, this is called a beading mat. So this helps, especially if you're using beads that are very small, like seed beads, they'd be the smallest bead, and it helps to catch the beads in those. It's a little bit like a piece of felt, but it just helps to grip, and the kind of static on it will help your beads, not everything won't fall all over the place. So when we're happy with the length that we want our bead, we'll just pop on our beads. This time I won't have the decorative end on it because I know that the loop here is going to hold my bead in place. So it doesn't matter really, unless the bead is massive and would go through this, but this will catch here at the end. So I don't need my decorative stopper for the end of that. Again, I'll show you towards the end of the demo how you might want to make maybe your own decorative stoppers. So these, like, they're called bead ends. So you have here, you might want to make one of those yourself, but you can make them out of using even a bit of clay or a bit of Fimo, like I showed you on this guy here. So when we have our beads, we'll just put on 2 of them here, and I'll put on then, just to be even more tacky and more Christmassy, I'll just put on one of those beads as well. So we'll put on that. Then we just need to, like we did at the start, we just need to loop the top with our round nose pliers, or sorry, our flat nose, or long nose pliers, I should say. You can use a round nose pliers as well. It's more rounded on top, and that's perfect as well. So again, I don't close it off fully, and I need my earring hook for this to our cutter. So again, make it very simple, especially when you're starting off. Just make it really straightforward, and then you can make it as complicated as you want then as you get more proficient with it. So you have here, I'm just going to close this here with my pliers. We're just flattening, we're squeezing the piece of the loop that we did earlier. We're just squeezing it tight. I'll show you there closer on that. So that loop is closed now, in order so that the bead, so that the earring is not going to fall off your ear. So when we have that, so we have this loop here at the bottom here. So I can do exactly like I did in the first part, using my head pin. So my head pin is going to go on the end. So the head pin is the flat piece here. So this is going to go, I need to decide first the length. So I snip that and I'm happy with the length. And for this one, sure, we'll do a real, we'll go wild with it. We'll have even more blingy than before. So I'm just going to put on again, my taste level now may not be to your taste level, but you can decide what format of beads you want to put on. And we'll put on a small little pearl. This is very Christmas. It looks like a Christmas decoration. So that goes in here. And then I, like before, like at the start, I just loop the top here. And then this time, this is going to loop into our eye pin just here. My camera now is being a bit contrary. So that's going to loop into that, just like that. And now all I need to do then is flatten this. Just like, yeah, of course. It's like so. This is a good time to ask any questions while I'm trying to flatten this. Perfect. So I'm going to show you then this in the other camera, just so you see how it falls. So that is that. Probably just need to straighten it up a bit. So you can see then you can have it, it falls twice. If I was to leave this part, which I'll show you here, again, we'll switch here. If I was to leave this a little bit opened, like I did before I closed it, come on, focus now for me. if I was to leave that second part that I added a little bit opened, I could make a number of them. So I could make a few of them. So it dangles a few times. This has got a little bit bent in the box. So you could make maybe 3 or 4 of those. So it would hang. Then I'll show you. Switch the camera there. So that will hang then a few times. So you have your main kind of bead here, and then it'll hang again. You could have 3 or 4 of these. It could be even made into like a tassel as well, you know, or some people make angels, like Christmas angels, and they have this as the dress part, and then they could put a head here, and instead of the earring hook, you would just have your head on the top and then just put little eyes on it or whatever. And this could be made into an angel, like a Christmas angel. So it's a nice activity for, you know, kids and stuff. So that is our 2 formats of earrings. Again, so straightforward. I'll quickly show you again just the materials that I used. So if you wanted to even make note of them, maybe I inspired you to make some jewelry. So you have, all you need is your earring hook, just here like this. You need your eye pin, so those ones with the eye, and then are your head pin as well, so with the flat part. So you could decide, you could just go for 1 type or 2 types, you decide. And of course, then you need your long nose pliers and your snips, just to snip it, and beads. So again, it's a great way of upcycling some old jewelry or broken jewelry that you have, and just upcycle it into your own you know, upcycling it into your own style or whatever it is. If there's a Christmas party coming up, you could always tailor your outfit or your earrings to match your outfit. So that's our earring. So now I'm going to show you how to make a necklace. If anyone has any questions, again, please feel free to either unmute yourself or put them in the chats as well.
Oh, I have one question.
Mm.
How would you attach the feather?
I'm going to show you that in a second as well. Yeah, because it's the same format as when we were doing cord. So I'll show you that in a second. So our next one is the necklace. So your necklace can be made in a few different ways. So I'll show you here. I just pop this here. So again, the necklace has 2 formats, or a few formats actually. It just depends on the level you want to do. And this is, I'm going to show you in a second now for your feather question as well. So this is our necklace, 1 format or 1 type of it. And then this is another one. This is using tiger tail. So tiger tail wire is a really good one because it's quite flexible, and it also hangs quite nice. Some of my samples have been brought to schools and stuff, so they may be a little bit warped at this stage. So if we didn't have our tiger tail wire, we could use elastic if we were making a bracelet, or you could use some fishing line or catgut, it's also known as. So the fishing line, the transparent line that you could use, or you could use a cord, or even like wool or string. So if we only had, say, for example, if we only had some string, I'm going to show you now how we would do that, just as it's the first kind of basic one. And I'll switch the camera here. So with our string, I need to see where mine is gone. We have here. So for the string, so for example, you would just need some string. It depends on the kind of string you have. This one here is a leather cord that you could have as well, or if you had maybe even sometimes you might just have embroidery thread or a wool or that as well if you're doing the activity with some kids. So you have your thread. We'll just cut this here. Snip that there. So this is how we make also our feather, so the feather earring. So this is what we use here. So these are little cord ends. So I'm actually going to take off, sorry, now the chat there. So you have, this is a cord end. It's a little box really. I'm not showing you here on this end here. So it's a small little box. So if I turn this on the side, you'll see it even more. So it's a box here that's opened and it has a little loop on the top of it. So all we need to do is we get our cord. You can put a bit of glue into that section in order for it to be more secure. So we could just put a bit of glue in here. And where is my glue? So the glue that I have here is a jewelry glue, and the brand is Rare. It's a German company that do it. So I would use this one. Sometimes super glue, those kind of brands of super glue, it was never so super because it would always tend to fall off. So I really don't know why it was called super glue in the first place. So there's another one here, like the Mod Podge is good as well, Dimensional Magic. They also used to do another brand called Wonder Glue. It was fantastic, but it was taken off the market for some reason. And that was more wonderful than super glue. But just depends on the glue you have. Of course, if you're doing this activity with children, maybe just even some PVA glue or regular children's glue. So just here. So what we do is we put a tiny bit of glue in there, and then we just need to put in our, this is every time I open this glue, it always goes everywhere. And of course, it'll do the same today. So we just put in a tiny bit of that. And then we would put our cord into that section as well. Using your, either your fingers or depending on the glue that you put in there, you don't want to glue your fingers. You would just flatten this. So those two sides will flatten in together. So you can see just here, of course, the glue is all over my hands, but it is safe, this glue, it's not harmful. So just flatten in those and it'll hold that cord in place. Of course, just wipe off the excess glue you need. So that's going to hold that in place. And then all I need to do then is just string on my beads onto that. Of course, if you're using a wool or a thicker cord, you'll need the dimension of the hole in the bead needs to be bigger. So if this happens, for example, this thread that I picked up, see the way it's kind of fraying a little bit? Just put a little bit of nail varnish or a bit of glue on the end of that and it'll stop it from fraying. So just a bit of glue or a bit of nail varnish is actually good as well. So then we'll just kind of twist that a little bit, just for the demonstration purposes. And of course, the bead is tight on that side. Yep. These things happen. So we would put our bead in here. Again, and just thread this then through. No, they're not playing ball today. So we put it in here. And yeah, very green there for the old Ireland, you know. Have a nice green bead. So then you just put those and thread them on like that. Again, if the hole, if you felt like it was going to go through, use one of your decorative pieces at the end, those cord end ones. And they come in different hole sizes as well. So you could put one of those at the end. Thread on all your beads onto that. And then to close it, you would need a jump ring. So these are called jump rings, and you can actually just open these out even with your hands or with your pliers. So just like this. So that'll open that. So that jump ring, you want to attach that onto the little loop at the end of the cord end, or the beginning, I should say, of the cord end. So that little loop there, and just loop it in. So this jump ring is going to attach then our clasp. So we just need to make sure to put a clasp onto this. So this will, the clasps all have a closed circle here. So you just need to loop that in around your, I need to open that one a little bit more. It's a little bit wide. So that's one side has gone in here. Everyone, come on. Focus. No, it's not playing well, but I think you can see that here. Let me see. So this, anyway, this is a jump ring that has gone in through that loop, and it's attached on to this. Let's see. So it's just here. Focus. Of course, because it's the demonstration, it's not playing ball. So this one, and then you put in the loop here as well. We just need to loop in our clasp. Of course, then once we've all our beads put on, this has just been a bit contrary. Once we have all our beads put on, we put our, oh, it's been super contrary today. Once we have all our beads put on, we need to put on one of those cord ends on both ends, you know, because this clasp will lead to catch into that one. This is just being a little bit contrary, so I'm just going to leave it aside, pretend it never happened. So you put one of those on either side, and then this clasp will connect into our cord end. So it's the same if we were doing our feather. So first I had my feather, I had my cord end just here. I put on some glue. I put on some glue in there, put the feather inside, like so. Flatten that for the demonstration purposes. I'll avoid using the glue, but you know, just to secure it more is to put the glue in. It'll just last longer then. Again, that one did not play ball. Great time to ask another question. Just here, just flatten those in. Just here, so you have your little round bit here, and then our earring hook is going to go in there. With the earring hook, you don't need to add an extra jump ring because this part opens. I don't know why it's not. Okay. Oh. So this part will open there. Actually, that's more close. So I just need to open this a tiny bit. And I'd recommend maybe putting on some relaxing music because sometimes it can get a little bit fidgety. So that'll loop in here, and I just again squeeze this closed again with my long nose pliers, or my flat nose pliers, and then I'll show you this here on the other camera. Just here. So you can see then that it dangles then like that. So you could put anything into that, you know, it depends on, you know, your own style or your own interests. You could put a number of feathers, or you could just wear one earring, again, go 80s style. So a question, I sometimes have difficulty with the jump rings staying closed. Do you have any suggestions? No, it's just really, I suppose it depends as well on the ones that you use. Again, some brands may be better than others, or just make sure you give them a good squeeze, you know, with the flat nose pliers, because it'll really flatten them in. But that is all that I can suggest for that. Jump rings sometimes are put onto things, maybe like if you say didn't know that you didn't need a jump ring for this, you know, sometimes people have jump rings, they're almost either to extend a necklace to make it a little bit longer, but sometimes maybe you don't even need that jump ring, and the security of the clasp here has a closed one. Maybe you just need, maybe you don't need them, is the answer to that as well. Sometimes maybe you don't need them. So next, I'm going to show you how we do then our standard kind of necklace. Again, this technique you can use by making it shorter, so you can make it into a bracelet. And again, if you wanted longer, I usually do them a little bit shorter for the demonstration because it wouldn't make sense to be putting on loads of beads onto it, because I don't think you've come here to watch me put on beads. But I will show you how to make a smaller version of the necklace. So for it, you will need your tiger tail. So this is tiger tail that I'm using. Again, substituted, again, like I showed you with that quite very tragic display of the cord, but I think you got it. With that, you could use like the cord. So you use the cord end if you're doing it that technique. But if you have the tiger tail, so first off, tiger tail, we need our clasp. The clasps are in, you can get different size clasps as well, depending again on, for people who have poor motor skills or so, you may need a bigger clasp, just so you can actually close your necklace. So your clasp, and you'll need these little guys, they're called crimps. So crimp beads are just here, they're little tiny ones. So I'll just show you here if it'll actually, you need to take it off the chats here now. So just here, so they have, it's a little bead that has a little opening in it, small little bead that you can flatten. So I'll show you those in a second. So they're the crimps, tiger tail, and our clasp as well. Again, you will need your flat nose pliers and your cutter as well. So first off, decide on the length of your necklace, simply by putting it around your neck and hanging it around your neck and seeing what length you want the necklace. So for this one, like I said, for the demo, I'll just make it a bit shorter so that you can see, but it's exactly the same format you can follow. So when you have your tiger tail, so on the one side, we're going to create a loop, and this is going to be what our clasp will connect into. So this clasp here, I have it opened here so you can see it. So this here says open and it's closed, so it's open here. We're going to hook this into that side of the wire. So we put on 2 of our crimps. So these tiny little crimp things that always fall around the place, this is why you need the beading mat at this stage. Or if you have poor eyesight like myself, maybe even a magnifying glass, you can sometimes get a stand on a table and you can have your pieces under that, it'll magnify them. So for anyone whose sight is poor sighted, they are a good thing, like myself, as we get older. Do you know what I mean? So we have, I'm putting on 2 of these crimps. So the crimps just slide down through the tiger tail wire, just like that. So you have them there kind of sliding down like that there. Actually, that's better when I do it that way. So what we want to do is create a loop in the tiger tails. This is just on one side we do this. So my loop, and I'm going to loop the wire around and tuck it back in under those crimps. So you have like that. So you're creating a loop. You can decide if you want this quite wide or short by just moving the crimps up or down on it. So we can have it that width, just see here. So you can have it that width, or you can make it shorter or smaller, just depending on what you want there. So this is what our clasp is going to connect into. So you can decide that. So when I'm happy with the positioning of my crimps, I just flatten them. So flatten them. I put on 2 because it adds extra security on it. So it's not going to fall apart. So you have your loop here. Sometimes you may have a bit of excess wire that flips out here. You can just cut it off with your snips. So this is the first side. So on one side, we have that loop created. So just here. And now we need to thread on our beads. If we wished, we could thread on our beads all the way along here. So again, this is a necklace. Remember, I'm making it a little bit shorter just so it fits in screen and you can actually see everything. So if I wanted to, I could put a bead So I'm going to get my bead here. If I wanted, I could have a bead floating here and a bead floating here, and then I could have my pendant in the middle. So just like that. If I want this bead, when I thread it on, if I don't want it to move, so if I don't want this to move and I want it just to stay on the left or the right hand side of my necklace, what I do is I put on one of these crimps that I put on earlier. So first, just move those beads out. I'm going to get that little crimp that I showed you earlier. I'm going to thread this through my tiger tail. And when I'm happy with the positioning of my beads, because you can always on this beading mat, you could have a number of different beads just beside it, or you could use what's called a beading board. And a beading board has little numbers on it, and it has like an indentation where you can put your wire, you sit it into it, and you can have all your beads lined up, so you can kind of play around with the format of the beads and how they will go on. So I want my bead kind of hanging about here or floating around here. So I just flatten this crimp. This is before I put on this. So when I put on this bead through here, it's going to stop that from falling. So you kind of, it stops it here. So it can't go any further because of my crimp. With the crimps, you can get them in silver or in gold. I'm using the gold ones here in this, but you can always get them in silver as well. So they're going to stop that from falling. Again, they're kind of more hidden and stuff as well as you're wearing your necklace. So we put on another crimp because I wanted to stop, or I wanted to float in that section. So I wanted to be just floating here. So I flatten the crimp again, and that's going to secure that. So that's never going to move. So you have your, that's where that'll float. And then, of course, my pendant will go in the middle. Again, if the hole size is too big, for example, just there, it's maybe a bit too big for this. So I will need to put on this time, because if I did put on the crimp on that side to stop it, it may even the crimp, because they're so small, it may even go through my bead. So I use a crimp and one of those decorative. So my crimp is going to go on first. This is for my pendant. So again, you can choose any kind of format, any kind of pendant you wanted. So when I'm happy with the positioning of it, I just flatten the crimp. Then I put on my decorative stopper like we used in our earring. So that will go here. That's going to stop that from falling or going any further. Just like that. My camera is really playing up today. I don't know, of course. Then my pendant, or my little centerpiece that I want, that goes there. So that's going to stop that. So you have it here. So it's very neatly done there. And of course, then the other side, I need to put my decorative stopper here. That threads on in there, and then I get another crimp to make sure that that doesn't move, and the crimp goes up, the crimp flies, of course, and so that'll be like that. And I need to make sure to flatten that then, just nice and tight, close to it, so it's not going to move. So then you have another bead that's not going to move no matter what way we turn it. Again, for decorative kind of purposes, we'll just put this on this side. So my things aren't really aligning, but I think you get the message here. So this will go here. So we need to put a crimp on either side of this bead. So I just thread on my small crimp again. So this is only if you wanted a bead floating. I said I would show you this because other than that, it would just be putting on your beads. So you don't necessarily have to go for all of these crimps. If we didn't want to have a bead floating, you could just thread on all your beads and then decide on the kind of format you want. So again, I flatten my crimp. I put this bead on there on the other side. And one more crimp to make sure it's not going to move. That is flattened like that. So the next part then is our clasp. We need to make sure that the clasp goes on then. So the clasp, when we go to that part, we again, like we did at the start, we put on 2 of our crimps here, just so the piece is not going to break apart in the first wear of it. So 2 of those. And the only important part then I need to remember is with my crimp, or sorry, my clasp. So you can see, actually, I'll do it. So the clasp here has a loop here that's closed. So we just need to make sure, like we did at the start, we have our, the 2 crimps fell off, of course, while I was doing that. So we have our 2 crimps here. And before I flatten those, I need to make sure to thread that little ring here on the clasp. I need to thread that in through my wire here. Again, like we did at the start, we're going to now loop the wire around and tuck it in under the crimps, just so we're securing that. And you can push the crimps right up to the clasp, flatten them. So it's exactly like we did at the start, but we just, in this case, we're putting on our clasp. So then your clasp will connect into the loop that we made at the start. And you have your, I'll show you in the other screen. I don't know how this is going to hang, but so you have then your necklace. I mean, of course, it should be a lot longer. This will like sit properly like that. So you'd have this could fit a doll. So if you ever want to make doll jewelry, there you go. That's how you make that. So it's the same format. If you wanted to make a bracelet, you would just do the exact same. Just make it as short really as this. Or if you want to make a necklace, make it longer, so you have it longer. So it's very straightforward. Just remember to loop your piece first. Loop the wire first and then loop it and tuck it in underneath your clasp the second time. Yeah, so it's very straightforward with that. This is an example here that I made. So this has this wasn't even actually, this was this was the tiger tail as well. So tiger tail, and then the different beads, just depending on the format that you want. So this was done exactly the same way as that in your clasp then here. And with this one, and this is the next one, I'm going to show you how I made this one. So this is, again, so this part here on top, and I'll show you in the other camera in a second, all of this top part was made using the technique that I showed you there. But I have a loop at the end, and there's also a loop on this side. So it's really like what we did at the start of the demo. So, or the start of my necklace section of the demo. So you have your loop here, and there's jump rings to kind of hold them in place. So I'll show you this then on the other screen so you can see just here. So you have your loop. So your loop is here and here, in between these beads. So this is my round, this is my first here. This one here. So the eye pin that you used for the earring, this is the same one that you can use where you're making each of these sections. So all I did for these, I'll just see if I have one of those beads. So the dimension of the hole on this bead was too big. It was going to fall through the eye. So what I did was, with this bead, I had a bead like this, and on either side I put a smaller bead. So I put it in place like that. So let me show you here. So we have our small bead, and I'll pick a bead that has a large eyelet. Let's see here. So for example, this one, yeah. So this is probably real, you know, it's a bit blingy. And it's probably easier seen in the other camera. So I'll show you here. So you have then this bead here, because the eyelet is a little bit bigger, and that may fall through our loop here. So I just put this through this. So you can have one on either side, and we'll put a small bead then on that side. And then I will switch cameras again. And I just loop with my flat nose pliers. I can cut it first. So I'll cut it about here again. Be mindful that those bits kind of fly. And again, just loop this probably here. So this is how I made those other beads. I made them all in sections first. Just tighten that a bit there. And you're just creating a loop like what's on the other one. So you have your loop here. I'm just going to keep an eye on the time because I didn't even have a look at the time. Oh, yes. I better speed talk. So that is how you create each of those sections. So here, each section was connected then. So all of those beads, they're all connected in different sections. It's the same here. I have my eye pin going through that bead, through this one. Let's see if I separate them more. So like that. So I'm just going to speed talk now for a few minutes because I just see the time. So next, simple things, a few little simple things. If you want to make a ring, so you have a ring base, then use make button jewelry. So you have a button, a big button, a smaller button on top of it, and glue them together. So again, jewelry glue, big button, glue it down, small button on top, glue it, done, jewelry. So again, really nice one for kids, or some adults as well, of course. If you wanted to make your own kind of bases for these, you would use a Fimo. So like Fimo is this here that you cook in the oven. So it's a clay, so Fimo here. So you roll it out and you can create any shape out of it. You put it in the oven, just say here, 110 degrees for 30 minutes. And then that'll make a bead. So if you need to make any beads as well, you can just roll bits of this. It's really nice clay. Put a few colors beside each other, roll it, and then you can make a marbled effect. When you cut it, it gives you this lovely marbled effect. So you can see even like on some of that, it's a bit marbled on the back, actually, just like that. So this is the Fimo. It's a really good one to make brooches. You could make your own beads. You can even make then some buttons, you know, or flat circles that you can attach to a ring. Then I'm going to quickly show you then how we do the felting technique. So felted beads. So inside in this here is a styrofoam ball. So I have my styrofoam ball. All I do is get my felting. This is a typical artist or any crafts person. You start off nice and neat, and then as you continue, you just it gets very messy. So this, again, be very mindful if you're doing this with children, because it is a sharp needle. So this is quite sharp. So this is felting, the technique of felting. And even if you look up, I think on my YouTube channel, so Declan or Meara, I think I put up a demo on the felting on that. I don't know how good or bad it is, but you could just check it out if you need to as well. I will be uploading hopefully a few new demos in the future, just when I get time. And from that, then you can have a look on how to do it. Be very mindful that this is a sharp needle, especially because I'm using a curved surface. So what we do is we this is our felting wool, and felting wool can come in many different colors. You can see here, we have a few different colors here. There's a bit of yellow, those kind of colors. So that is how we do that. And all we do is we use our felting needle, try and go for a fine needle if you can. The fine needles are the better ones. You're just pricking the fibers of this wool into the styrofoam base. Again, do look as you're doing this, because if you take your eyes away, you may end up causing an accident, which we don't want. So you keep layering on this felted wool, and it'll stick to the styrofoam. So again, this is just one with a handle, same. This one fits into a handle as well. So again, use the fine needle if you can. They're actually a lot better. So when we've all that felted, it turns out to be like this. From this, I did exactly the same like before. I have my eye pin just here. And remember how I threaded those? So those ones, I just do the exact same. This eye pin will go through the styrofoam ball. So when it has, of course, we're going to do a bit of use our imagination, and we imagine that this is, because we're under a bit of time constraint there now. So this will go through the styrofoam ball, and you put your decorative stopper on the end on either side like that, you know. So you can build up those in each different section as well. So it's a really nice way of making your own personalized jewelry. So that is for the felting one. There is a flat felting technique as well that you can use. So you have your flat, just a piece of felt that I cut out into a circle. From it, I can add my wool. You can do it in a pattern. So I can have my design here. Again, I'm looking at what I'm doing, just be very mindful. So you can create any kind of pattern. I use this foam block under it in order for the needle not to hit the table. And just another thing to remember, keep the needle as straight as you can. If we come in at an angle, the needle will break. So keep the needle upright as you can. So you could add one color like this. I could just cut off the excess here. And that goes into the fibers. You can see it just in behind here. So I could have my next color beside it. You can create any kind of pattern. If we want to dictate the shape of it, just twist the wool just like this. So I can actually control the wool or create more of a shape. So this is just like this. And then with that, if you wanted, then you could make this into a brooch. So we could cut this here and here. I could sew this backing on it just to hide those bits. You could even put a piece of card onto it, or put a piece of cardboard even between this to make it nice and sturdy. And then get your brooch back, glue that onto it, or because there's holes in this one, you could sew it on if you wanted to as well. And that will create a small little brooch for yourself or for a friend. Because Christmas is coming up, you could make them one. So that is that one. With things like beads for using clay, I just know there's different types of clay you have, like air drying clay, these kind of ones here. Just with the air drying clay, all you need to do is just quickly show you here. Very, very simple. When you get your piece of clay, of course this is dry because I don't want to be messing everything up. Roll your clay into a ball, get a toothpick to dictate the hole size. So just use the toothpick to kind of go all the way through. So you can dictate the hole size on that. Just an important part on this, if it was still wet, you could put some impressions into it. You could press some like designs. So I could say use this piece of jewelry and I could press it into the soft clay to give me that effect. So that pattern will come out onto my clay, and then just wait for it to dry. You could make even some cookie cutters, roll out your clay so it's nice and flat, but a little bit thick. Use your cookie cutter, cut out your shape, and from that you can make your own earrings out of, you know, a Christmas shape or something like that. Because we know Christmas is coming up. Just one thing is the clay. Then I just see how long does it take to dry. Just overnight, or sometimes it depends on how thick the clay is. So if you have a thick piece of clay, leave it near a window or leave it near a heater, or sometimes even turning on the oven and turning it off again and just leaving the oven door open can heat them as well. One thing about this is if you want to dry it, you just need to make sure to put, it may appear dry. If you want to paint it, put 2 or 3 coats of PVA glue, like children's glue, over it when you believe that it's dry, because there's still water content in it. So it may look dry, but it may not be dry before you paint it. Because if you paint it directly, it'll crack. The paint will crack. So put 2 or 3 coats of children's glue, wait for that to dry, then put your paint on it. Your paint, you could paint a pattern onto it, and then cover it with the PVA glue if you want to, the children's glue, and it'll create a nice shiny bead. So it prevents the paint from cracking on your bead. So that's my speed talking. I'll just see if there's any other questions just here. So there's a bit of speed talking at the end. Little things, you know, like the foam I showed you, you could put a rope or cord around it. So these were like for decorations for Easter. So depending on what, bit of fluff on it, and depending on what theme you're doing. This is just PVA children's glue, and I just wrapped around my string around it. Again, you could do the same for beads. This is a little guy for felting. There's a foam underneath him. It's an egg shape styrofoam, and you can make a little bat, because we all love bats. So I'll just see if anyone else has any questions, because I know we're probably coming up to, let me see the time. Yeah, 20:05. So does anyone have any questions? I hope that I made making jewelry a little bit.
Hold on. I might have a question. If I'm trying to make a charm bracelet and the charms hang on with the jump rings, is there a tool that seals the jump rings, and how do I do a wire wrap loop for the charm bracelet? Those 2 questions.
Is there a tool that seals the jump ring? So the tool I showed you, you know, the flat nose pliers, that's perfect for it. So this one, the flat nose, because it's got a flat nose, so it's easier to flatten any of those. And then the wrap around with the wire.
The wire wrap loop, you know, like you make wire wrap loop around the beads. And someone said you could put that on the charm bracelet.
Yeah, so then in terms of that, just kind of weave it in through the bead. So you're kind of almost like sewing it on, but you're using the wire. So you kind of bring it in underneath the bead. So you have it coming in up through the center of the bead.
Not wrapping around, but making a loop to hook it to the charm. You know, like you put the charm on with the loop, and it's a wire wrap, a loop, so the charms won't fall off.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not really sure what you're.
You know, like you take the eye pin and you put the charm on, and then you wrap the wire around to make the loop so it wouldn't fall off. It's like locked in, not like you were making.
Oh yeah, but then just loop it on both sides.
Yeah, I'm having trouble trying to do that. Can you show me?
Well, I probably can't over the thing unless you. Who is speaking? Do you have it in front of you?
I can. I can't show you a picture, but it's.
The technology has its power, but it's also can be a bit powerless.
Yeah.
If I could go and join you, I would, but I can't. Even maybe send me a photo, and it might be easier. So I'm going to put actually in here in the chats just my contact details. Let me see now. How do I go at this? Yeah. So just let me see here now. I'm just going to put in a link to my mailing list. So anyone if you are interested in signing up to my mailing list, I do other demonstrations in the future as well. Just 1 second now.
Declan, I know I found you on Eventbrite. Do you have any classes listed on Eventbrite right now?
No, it's just in Ireland, I go around to schools around the country and I do workshops. So I do day workshops. I also then teach our teachers online. So it's really just a matter of getting time to do all of that. I will hopefully after the Christmas do some online, like schedule some online classes because I know the time zones are different as well. So our night time, maybe if I have time then. So this
What's
is
your email?
So I just put in a link to my mailing list. So if you do want to sign up to the mailing list, just you can
Okay.
for further classes. I do free events for Patrick's Day, of course, because I'm Irish, and for Halloween I do some, and I do some tie-dye ones as well. I'm just going to put in my email there if anyone does want, and I'll put in my Instagram link. Instagram really and Facebook are the kind of two formats that I use where I upload examples of kind of students' work and stuff like that. So let me make sure I don't miss any of the comments. So I'll just put in that Instagram one as well. And if anyone else has any more questions, let me see here. Paste.
Hello,
Hello.
I had put one in the chat, but I had a question. If you're making beads out of paper, what can you do to protect them from water?
Sometimes the Mod Podge, you can get a
Mod
Mod Podge. Yeah, Mod Podge is good for kind of sealing them, you know, or even, but you want to make sure that the paper is not going to get stained. So it just depends on the paper as well. Mod Podge is quite a good one because they have a load of different brands. So where is it? This is Mod Podge. It's really good. Like this is a matte finish, so it'll give you a matte finish. Sometimes PVA glue can be a bit shiny, but people don't want that their product to be shiny. So and then of course the matte or even a resin as well might be good to check out. Some of the resins, Mod Podge do the dimensional magic, so it's made up and all, and it gives you a seal on that. That's quite good as well. It's
So this is what I did when you were trying to work. I made this out of paper.
oh, I don't know who's speaking.
Can you see it?
What's your name? Oh yeah, Mel, is it?
Yeah.
Brilliant, class. Also, I went to an exhibition today and there was a lady makes, again, stuff out of paper, and it's in my story on Instagram, and her stuff's amazing. It's really solid, you know, like jewelry that she makes out of paper. Amazing.
Yeah, I'm an
So
origami,
good.
so I thought how could
Origami class.
right,
Brilliant. Wow, lovely.
I thought, what if we like to make the beads out of paper? So
Yeah,
Mod Podge.
nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Mod
much.
Podge is
Really
good.
enjoyed the class.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you.
You're
So
welcome.
this recording will be on our Atlantic Institute SC YouTube channel in the middle of this next week. The person who uploads it for me is a volunteer, so you can watch it over and over again. I believe if you subscribe to a YouTube channel, it will let you know when new videos come out. And if you're not aware, we do this class once a month. And we also have another one called Cuisine of Different Cultures that we do once a month as well. And those are all recorded as well as some dialogue, educational, and interfaith events. So you can go and check out our Atlantic Institute YouTube channel. We do have our own website where you can sign up for classes, as well as we put it out on Eventbrite. I know a lot of you find me on Eventbrite, and thank you all. Declan, thank you very, very, very much.
Thank you.
Please sign up to his mailing list. He was telling me he does the artwork behind him, so he is multi-talented. I can tell, very much so. And I want to thank everybody for coming. Anybody have any more questions? I also want to say, Declan, yes, I agree with you about super glue. It is not so super.
Oh, we need to rebrand it. Just somebody put in just in the chat, C Daily put in that somebody was telling her to secure the jump rings to put in. I don't know if people haven't seen them, maybe just to put some glue on the end of it. So that's a good point. That's a good tip. So thank you for that, because this is a format for sharing as well when people have tips like that. But thank you everyone for attending, and it's good seeing some familiar faces that have done my teen camps and my during the summer. So thank you for attending as well.
Also, if anybody would like to instruct a class, please send me an email. We are looking for next year's class instructors, both cooking and craft-wise, craft hobby, anything. So, but check out what we've done. We have several videos out there. We did, in our first year, we did a class on 3D printing. That was pretty awesome to see. Yeah, there is a Clemson University has a 3D club, and they have, at that time, I think they had like 12 3D printers that they could run at once, and they had multiple different kinds. And the video we have is about the different kinds you can get and that sort of stuff. And this was 2 years ago, so I'm sure that things have even advanced more since then. But yes.
Brilliant. And they can always use the 3D beads to make their own, or 3D printer to make their own
Yes,
beads.
to make
You know.
beads,
So
yes.
So you said you can seal the jump rings with glue. Is that something I could do with the charm bracelet?
That was what somebody put in. C Daily put in that in the chats.
So you can seal it with glue, right?
And that's what she was saying. I don't, you know that every piece of jewelry is different, you see, so I can't see your piece of jewelry, unfortunately. So
No, like a charm bracelet. Could you seal it, the charms on the jump ring with glue?
I suppose then you'd never be able to take the charms off. Maybe that's, you know,
Yeah, that's true.
there's a solution. There's always a solution. There are no problems,
Okay.
only solutions.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, I am going to end the recording now.
Thank you.
Stop recording.